Hey crafters, welcome to the first tutorial Tuesday of 2020. It's the new year, a great time to learn new skills. At the beginning of 2019, I did a mini series on Tunisian crochet, and so I thought that I might as well, carry on the tradition of starting the new year off with Tunisian crochet. So today I have a really fun Tunisian crochet project that is a great one to try if you're just getting into Tunisian crochet. So if you're not familiar with Tunisian crochet, it's almost a hybrid between knitting and crochet. Essentially use a really long crochet hook and you pull up loops like you do in crochet, so it feels a lot more like crochet, but you carry several loops and stitches on your hook at a time like you would in knitting. So if you already know how to crochet, getting into Tunisian crochet is super easy. As I mentioned, I have a video series, I'll link it up there, on how to get into Tunisian crochet if you already know the basics of crochet. If you don't already know the basics of crochet and you just want to jump into Tunisian crochet, you can give those videos a watch, or you can search for some other intro videos on here on YouTube. But probably the biggest drawback to Tunisian crochet is if you're doing something that's very wide, you need a special Tunisian hook. Normal crochet hooks like this one, I can only carry as many stitches as I can fit on here, and stitches are likely to fall off the end. So usually you have to then go out and buy new hooks. Anyways, the project I have for you today basically works around that issue with Tunisian crochet, because it's a project that you can make very large squares and rectangles using just a normal crochet hook. And so I'm going to be showing you the 10-stitch Tunisian crochet blanket. So this is to give you a feel for the 10-stitch Tunisian crochet blanket, and I kind of lied. I'm going to show you basically, I guess, like the 7-stitch. I'm not going to do all 10 stitches when I show the tutorial, so that way we can go through it a little bit faster, but I'll explain how you would do it if you were doing 10 stitches. This one here, this little sample, this is like a 5-stitch Tunisian crochet blanket. But whether you do 10 stitches, 5 stitches, 7 stitches, however many you do, it's going to be the same basic process. So for this project, you will need to know the basics of Tunisian crochet. Specifically, you'll need to know how to do the simple stitch. As a quick aside, if you notice the compression gloves on my hand, I'm going to be putting together a review video on these, and I'll probably get that posted sometime around March after I've had time to work with these, just in case you're wondering what the deal is with why my hands look funky. But if we look at the blanket, the essential way that it's crocheted is in a big spiral. So we start by making a square block in the middle, and now we go up and we create this triangle here. Then we turn our work and create a triangle here. Well, now we're at a corner again, because this right here is the first round. So we'll do a corner, a little triangle, a triangle, then we do a block to come up the side, triangle, turn our work, triangle, block to come up the side, triangle, turn our work, triangle, and work a long rectangular block until we're even with that first little triangles from the beginning of the round. Then for the next round, I guess if you want to call it, we keep spiraling up and out this way all along through here. We work these triangles to turn our work big long blocks, triangles to turn our work, big long blocks, triangles to turn our work, big long block, and so on and so forth. And you can keep spiraling and doing as many big squares as you want. There's also ways that you can vary this and make a rectangular start, and I may put together a video showing that. So that's the basic concept. It sounds a little confusing, but it's really not too bad once we actually get into it. As far as materials go, like I mentioned, you'll just need a regular crochet hook. I'm using this size K 6.5 millimeter hook, and for whatever reason in my videos I always say milliliter instead of millimeter. Totally wrong unit, but 6.5 millimeter hook. And then I'm using a mixture of Red Heart yarns. When I made this sample one here, I changed colors at every section so you can really clearly see where the sections are, and I'll also do a little bit of changing colors as we work through the project now so you can really clearly see where each individual piece goes. But when you're working on this, you don't have to change color at all. You can work all in one color. You can change color wherever you want, but I'm going to be changing at the different sections so we can clearly see that. So first things first, I'm going to get out my first color, make a slip knot, and make my starting chain. As I mentioned, I'm going to do just 7 stitches so you can get through this a little bit faster, but if you wanted to make yours 10 stitches wide, wherever I do 7, basically you will do 10. So I'm going to start with my chain. I'm going to chain 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're going to work our first row. This is going to be just working evenly in Tunisian Simple Stitch. I'm going to skip my first chain, in my second chain, insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. Go to the next chain, pull up a loop, next chain, pull up a loop. And I'm going to keep working this all the way down until I have 7 loops on my hook. So I have 7 loops on my hook. Again, if you were doing 10 stitches wide, you will have 10 stitches on your hook. We're going to do this row with a normal return pass like you do in Tunisian Crochet, where we're going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 6 times. So it's first time, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, and 6th time. So that is row 1. Now for row 2, we've already got our first loop on the hook. We don't need to worry about this first vertical stitch. We're going to come under the next vertical bar, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Next vertical bar, insert from right to left, pull up a loop, and keep working down across these vertical bars. We're going to pull up 5 loops on the vertical bars, and then this last one, I like to go kind of under 2 strands, so this strand right here, as well as this other little piece. I think it just makes it for a neater edge. I should have 7 loops on my hook, and we're going to work the same return pass as we did the first time. Yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2 6 times. So the second row, I'm going to repeat it until I have a total of 7 rows, and each of my 7 rows will be 7 Tunisian simple stitches wide. So here we go. I have crocheted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of Tunisian Simple Stitch, and I have 7 stitches within each row. Now you might be noticing that it looks a little longer than it is wider, and that is the case. However, there's enough stretch this way, and just the way that it works out, we need to have 7 stitches across and 7 rows, but it all works out where it ends up squaring up as we go. So for the sake of this tutorial, I am going to change color now so we can really clearly see where I'm inserting my hook with these different parts, because we're going to be doing our first set of triangles so we can turn and start spiraling around this way. So there's lots of different ways you can change color. You can either fasten off here and then just start picking up new loops. What I personally like to do is to undo the very last stitch I did. So I have these last 2 on my hook, and what's left to complete this row is to yarn over with this. Going to cut this tail end, and I'm going to get my new color and do a slip knot in my new color. Gonna go with this fun green here. I'm going to take this new color with the slip knot, slide onto my hook. I'm going to size it down so that way all my loops are the same size basically as this barrel part of the hook here. And before I go any further, I'm going to tie these 2 pieces together, my 2 tails. And I like to tie the tails together because I just think it helps it all stay together and not, come undone. Again, if you're not changing color or if you want to just completely fasten off, that's totally fine as well. So now that I have these tied, I will finish this row by counting this as my yarn over and pulling it through my last 2 loops. So essentially I have completed the 7 rows of 7 stitches across, and now I have my new color on my hook. So it's time to work on this first triangle, which I'm going to call the lower triangle, and I'm going to call that the upper triangle. So for the lower triangle, we're essentially going to keep decreasing on the left-hand side, so that way we end up at a point on the right top. So to start, it's going to be really similar to working just an even row of Tunisian Simple Stitch. So I'm going to, again, count this as my first stitch. So I'm not going to work here, but I'm going to go to my next vertical post, insert underneath that, yarn over and pull up a loop, and that's going to be my first Tunisian Simple Stitch. Repeat in the next one, pull up a loop for my 3rd stitch, my 4th stitch, my 5th stitch, my 6th stitch, and again, when I work this last one, I like to come under 2 of those strands there because I think it just keeps it a little neater. And that's going to be my 7th stitch. So I have 7 stitches on my hook, 7 loops. Again, if you're working 10 across or you're working any other number across, you are going to work across until you have, I'm doing 7, so I want 7 loops on my hook. If you were doing 10 stitches across, you'd want to pull up 10 loops on your hook. When I did this one where I was working 5, I would have 5 loops on my hook. Now it's time for the return pass. This is where we start doing these decreases, and it's way simpler than it sounds. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 7 times. Normally when we work a return pass, we yarn over and pull through just 1, but to do the decrease, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And then like normal, just yarn over, pull through 2 loops all the way back across. So you'll yarn over and pull through 2 7 times, just like that. Now for our next row, we've already got 1 loop on the hook. We're going to come to this second vertical bar, pull up a loop there for 2 loops, pull up a loop in the next vertical bar for 3, under the next vertical bar for 4, under the next vertical bar for 5, and under the next vertical bar for 6. This one would have been a vertical bar if we did an even return pass, but we did that decreasing return pass, so it put it at an angle, or a diagonal if you want to call it. Now we're going to work the return pass just like we did before. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, 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 and yarn over, pull through 2. A total of 5 times. And we're going to keep repeating this process until we end up with just one stitch here. So the next row we're going to pull up an additional 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're not going to work in that diagonal one. Then the return pass, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 4 times. That's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. Next row we're going to pull up 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Next row we're going to pull up an additional 2 loops. So we've got our first one on the hook, insert under the next vertical bar, pull up a loop, under the next vertical bar, pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 times. Lastly, we are going to come to this first vertical bar, insert our hook and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. That completes what I'm calling the bottom triangle. Now we need to get set up for the top part of the triangle. We're first going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and at this point we can kind of turn our work, if you will. I'm kind of hold it at an angle. I'm not fully turning it, but kind of just like so. So basically what we end up with is if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of decreasing, and we have our 2 chains. So this is our last row of decreasing right here. You can see there's a loop there and a loop there. We're going to come to the second to last row. So that's this one that has 2 vertical bars and a diagonal bar on the outside. So we're going to look at this row, and I'm going to come to that leftmost vertical bar and insert my hook underneath it from right to left. And in this spot, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Now there's that little leaning diagonal bar to the left of it. We're going to go there, insert our hook, and pull up a loop. So we should have 3 loops on our hook. So those are both worked in row 5 of our lower stitch. It was worked in the vertical bar of row 5 and that diagonal bar of row 5. Then we're going to come down here to row 6, where it has this first spot, this vertical bar, and then a diagonal piece. And we're going to insert our hook in the diagonal piece, pull up a loop, and now we have 4 stitches on our hook. Now it's time for the return pass. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So a quick word on that, no matter how many stitches you're doing, whether you're doing 10 or whether you're doing 7 or 5, you're going to start this upper triangle always the same way. So we ended up where we first picked up loops, we had 4 loops on our hook. You're gonna want to do that same 4 loops on your hook start, whether you're doing 7 across, whether you're doing 10 across, whether you're doing 20 across, or 5 across, always do that same 4 loops start. The only thing that's going to change is the number of rows that we do to complete this upper triangle. Unfortunately, the rest of the rows are just a repeating pattern that's fairly straightforward. So let's learn these repeating rows. I've turned my work, and so I now have these 3 vertical bars here, if you will. So I'm gonna come into this second vertical bar and work underneath it and pull up a stitch to make a Tunisian Simple Stitch. And in the next vertical bar, I'm going to work a Tunisian Simple Stitch there as well. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. If we look right here where it's kind of pulling a little bit, that's where we worked in that diagonal loop. We're going to insert our hook through there where there's already a stitch from the first row that we did. We're going to insert our hook in there, pull up a loop, so now we have 4. And because we're adding a stitch to every row to complete the upper triangle, we need to go and find the next diagonal bar and insert our hook in there as well. So that's the diagonal bar that's at the end of row 3. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to come to the very end, find that diagonal bar, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So that way we have 5 loops on our hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, just kidding, 4 times. 4! Not 5 times, 4 times. And we're going to keep repeating this process until we've worked in all these diagonal bars. So I like to think of that chain 2 we did in the beginning as being our first row, pulling up those 4 loops and working back as our second row. What we just did there would be like our third row. So for our fourth row, we're going to pick up in the vertical bars. So this time we're going to pick up in 3 vertical bars where we've been working this upper triangle. And then once we work in the vertical bars, we're going to need to pull up 2 more stitches. The first stitch we pull up, we're going to work in that diagonal spot in row 3 where we already have a stitch worked. So I'm going to work in there and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to go to row 2 of the lower triangle and pull up a loop in the diagonal spot there. The return pass, same as always, where we yarn over, pull through 2, 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 yarn over, pull through 2. Our next row is going to be very similar. This time we're going to pull up 4 loops in vertical bars and then add 2 more on. So we're going to come to our first vertical bar, pull up a loop, our second vertical bar, pull up a loop, our third vertical bar, pull up a loop, and fourth vertical bar and pull up a loop. For the next 2, we're going to work in the diagonal where we already have a stitch. So we're going to work in that diagonal bar there, pull up a loop, and go to the next diagonal bar and pull up a loop. Then to work our return pass, yarn over, pull through 2, 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 yarn over, pull through 2 until we've worked all those off of our hook. Now it is time for our final row of the upper triangle. We're going to pull up 5 loops with vertical stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then this is row 1 of our lower triangle. We're going to go to that diagonal bar on the end, pull up a loop, and then we need to pull up 1 more loop, and that's going to be worked in the pink block that we very first started. We're going to go under the vertical bar all the way to the left in the last row of our pink. So when we work the pink, we work across and across and across. This is the last row we worked in pink. We're going to find that last vertical bar, insert there, and pull up a loop. To work the return pass, we're going to once more do pull off 2, pull off 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. So what we've done here is we've worked our first block, and you can consider this a second block. This is our first turn in our project so we can start spiraling around. So we've worked this, and then our first pair of triangles to let us turn. So now we need to work another pair of triangles so we can turn and spiral up this side and keep going around this way. So we're going to essentially repeat the triangle process, and it will look very similar to what we just did. I'm going to change color again so we can just really keep track of where we've worked. So here we are. I have changed my yarn color again using the same method I showed you earlier, but of course if you decide to change color, use whatever method to change yarn color that is the most comfortable for you. But now we're going to work another lower triangle. This one might feel a little bit different than the first one, but it's largely the same in principle. So I'm going to start by picking up some stitches, but I'm only going to pick up stitches in the green. I'm not going to come all the way to the pink. I already have one loop on my hook. I'm going to come to the first vertical bar right here, pick up a loop, the next vertical bar, pick up a loop, third vertical bar, pick up a loop, fourth vertical bar, pick up a loop, fifth vertical bar, pick up a loop, and sixth vertical bar, pick up a loop. And then I'm going to stop. The way you know to stop is you will have, in my case, I'm going to have 7 stitches on my hook because I'm doing a 7-stitch blanket. If you're doing a 10-stitch blanket, you will want to end up with 10 stitches on your hook. If you're doing 5, you'll want to end up with 5 stitches on your hook. But once I have 7 on my hook, I know that I have worked far enough across, and now I'm going to work the return pass the same way that I did to make this first lower triangle. So that's where every time I yarn over, I pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And that works that decrease on the left-hand side. So my first row, I pulled up 6 additional loops for a total of 7 loops. So this time, because we did the decrease, I'm only going to pull up 5 additional loops, and counting this one, I'll have 6 on my hook. So I'm gonna pull up from these 5 vertical bars. It's the second one I'm pulling up, the third one I'm pulling up, fourth one I'm pulling up, and fifth one. We're not going to work in this diagonal leaning bar. Once you have 6 loops on your hook, or the appropriate number for you, basically you want to have 1 less total on your hook than you did the previous row. We're going to work that decrease return pass where we yarn over, pull through 2, 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 yarn over, pull through 2 until you have just 1 loop left on your hook. This next time we're going to pull up 4 additional loops for a total of 5 loops. 2, 3, 4. So now I have 5 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 4 times. 3, 4. This time I'm going to pull up 3 loops from one each from my 3 vertical bars. So 1, 2, 3. Got 4 loops total. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Going to pull up 2 loops from my vertical bars, 1 and 2. Yarn over and pull through 2 times, 1, 2, and last time I've got just 1 vertical bar left here. Going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and then to return pass, yarn over and pull through 2. That is the lower portion of my turning triangle. Now it's time to get ourselves in position to work the upper part of the triangle. I'm going to, as before, start by chaining 2. So 1 and 2. I'll kind of turn my work here. Now again, I'm going to go 2 rows down to the row where I have 2 vertical bars and a diagonal. So for me, because I am working 7 stitches, it's going to be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row. If you were doing 10 stitches wide, it would be your 8th row. If you're working 5 stitches wide, it would be your 3rd row. So you're basically going to come down 2 rows from where you're at here. Once you find that row, we're going to go to the leftmost vertical bar, which for me is right there. Insert our hook and pull up a loop. Find the diagonal that's on that same row. So for me, it's right there to the left. Insert your hook. Kind of went through too much there. So your hook just through that front bar of the diagonal. Yarn over and pull up a loop. And then go 1 row down and go to the diagonal all the way at the left-hand side. Insert your hook through that diagonal bar, pull up a loop, and now you have 4 loops on your hook. Remember, no matter whether you're doing 5 stitches wide, 10 stitches wide, 7 stitches wide, you always do this turn the same way. This first time working along the side, you want to make sure you get 4 loops. Once you have your 4 loops, it's time for our decrease return pass, where we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we can really turn our work all the way, and we're going to keep working our rows up. So I'm going to pull up 2 loops, 1 in each of my 2 vertical bars. So 1 and 2. Then once I've done with my vertical bars, I'm going to need 2 more loops for this row so we can add our stitches. The first extra loop I'm going to pull is going to be from that diagonal that we already worked in. So that's about right there. Insert, pull up a loop, and then go to the next row down of our lower triangle, and we're going to find that diagonal at the very end, insert through there, pull up a loop. So this time we should have 5 loops on our hook, and work our decreasing return pass, where we pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Next row, same idea. Pull up a loop from all of our vertical stitches. This time we have 3 of those. Pull up a loop from the diagonal bar that we already worked in, and then kind of shift down a row in our lower triangle and pull up a loop in the diagonal bar at the end of that row. This time I have 6 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 a total of 5 times. Going to pick up 4 loops in our vertical bars this time. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I get those 2 extra ones. So in that diagonal where we've already worked, and in that last yellow diagonal, at this point we will have 7 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, 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 and we are almost done. So we've got 1 more row. We're going to work in our vertical bars. So this time we're going to pull up 6 on our vertical bars, or excuse me, 5. We're going to pull up 5. So we've got 5 vertical bars. We're going to pull up a loop on each of those. This is our 3rd vertical bar, our 4th vertical bar, and our 5th vertical bar. We have 6 loops on the hook right now. We're going to pull up a loop in this diagonal right here where we already worked. And then we're going to find our block that's to the left, which in our case, it's this turning block here with the green. And we're gonna work in the side right there. And that's kind of the base. We're not going into the pink, but we're going into the base of the green, that top right corner of the green block, and pulling up a loop. Right now, I have a total of 8 loops on my hook. This is the signal that this is the last row. Since I'm working 7 stitches across, the last row of my upper triangle will have 1 additional loop on it. If you were working this project 10 stitches wide, you would have 11 loops on your hook when you got to this last row of our upper triangle. If you were working 5, you would have 6 loops on your hook if you're working this upper triangle. Once more, we're going to work the same return pass as before, where we yarn over, pull through 2, and this time we're going to pull through 2 a total of 7 times. And that brings us to this point here. Now we've actually learned almost all of the parts we need for this. The way we did this block here is how we're going to do the other corners. The last thing we really need to know how to do is how to work a block on the side. Essentially what we've done here is we worked a block, we worked 2 triangles to turn, we worked 2 triangles to turn, and now we need to work this middle section, just working kind of another block here on the side. I'm going to change my yarn color again just so it's really clear to see, and then I'll show you how to work up the side. Alright, so I've changed color, but I actually want to pause for a minute and just do a shout out. I feel like I should do more shout outs because I love it when you guys comment on my videos. But anyways, on my Learn to Double Crochet video, I had Renee Roos, I hope I'm saying her name right. She commented and said, "Your videos are great, thanks for the help." And I just want to say thank you so much to Renee for commenting, and thank you so much everybody who comments on my videos. I really appreciate hearing from you guys, and it's super encouraging to know that people watch my videos and enjoy them. So thanks for the comment, Renee, and if you want a chance at a shout out, comment on my videos and you might get a shout out. But let's get back to the Tunisian 10 stitch, 7 stitch, however many stitches we're doing, blanket project. So now we are at the point where we need to work a block up the side of our pink block here. So I'm going to pull up loops in my vertical bars, and then we're going to attach it to our pink block. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertical bars. I'm going to insert my hook in through each of them and pull up a loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 7 loops on our hook. And so those are kind of going to be our 7 stitches, but we need to do something to join it to our pink block. What we're going to do is we're going to essentially pull up an extra loop from the pink block and then do our decrease row. So it's basically like we're adding in a stitch and then we're going to decrease to immediately get rid of it on the return pass. So it works out where this section here will essentially be 7 stitches wide, or 10 stitches wide if you are doing, 10 stitches. The hardest part with this is figuring out where to go in. What we essentially want to do is this first row in our new color, we want to line up with the second row in the pink. So you might be tempted to think, oh, we're gonna go in the side right here and pull up a loop. That is an option. If you do this though, you're gonna end up with some fairly large holes in your project and it just won't look quite as nice. So I found this great tip online, and I'll link to some of the patterns and other places where I've seen this 10 stitch so that way you have some extra resources. But what you can do to avoid creating a hole is if we look at the body of the row, we have these 2 horizontal bars, and we're gonna come through right between the 2 horizontal bars that are farthest to the right. So I'm gonna kind of come in underneath that and go all the way to the back of my work, like so. Yarn over and pull it through to the front. And this way we won't end up with a big hole. By pulling through there, it kind of pulls some extra strands of yarn over to fill in the gaps. So now we have a total of 8 loops on our hook. We had the one we started with, 6 we pulled up from the vertical bars, and then that 1 that we pulled from the pink. And now for our return pass, we're gonna yarn over and pull through 2 a total of 7 times. My second time, third time, 4th time, 5th time, 6th time, and 7th time. That's our first row. We're gonna repeat this another 5 times. So essentially, because I am working mine 7 stitches wide, I'm going to do 1 less number of rows. So I'm going to do 7 rows. So I'm gonna do that exact same process where I pull up 1 from each of my vertical bars. Because I'm working 7 stitches wide, I'm gonna have 6 vertical bars to pull up from. If you're working 10 stitches wide, you'll have 9 vertical bars to pull up from. But I'm gonna pull up from my 6 here. My 3rd one, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then we're gonna get that extra loop to kind of attach it to the side of this other block. So again, I'm gonna kind of find these 2 vertical bars right here. A little hard to tell in the pink. You go right through there. Basically, you just want to go in somewhere where you're not going to create a hole. So by going in a little further, it kind of fills that gap in. Got 8 loops on my hook. I'm going to return pass by yarning over and pulling through 2 7 times. That's 2 rows. That means I've got 4 more rows to go. I'm gonna finish those off and I'll show you that last row, and then we'll be back to doing this little pair of triangles to turn our work and work up this side. So I've worked 5 rows evenly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'm going to work the 6th row just working up the middle or working up the side, whatever you want to call it. Again, it's worked the same way. I'm going to pull up 6 loops, one from each of my vertical spars. Again, adjust it for however many stitches you chose to go with. And then once I get these all done, I will go to my block to the left and go in that last row. Really, it's the first row, I guess, that I crocheted, but it's the last row that I have left. I'm going to work under those vertical bars there so that way it doesn't create a hole. Pull up a loop. And now I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 7 times to work all the way back across. And that is going to wrap up this middle section. And now we're back to working the pair of triangles to turn our work so we can work up this side. When we work up this side, it'll be essentially the same as working here, just we're going to work underneath the vertical bars. Then we'll work another triangle, another pair of triangles to turn it here. And then we'll work up this side. This side will be worked the same as this. And we will actually keep working all the way until we're flush with the edge there. So most of finishing this first round, I'm gonna do off camera, but the parts where there's something different that happens, I'll show you those clips. So I've got one more row left to do of this upper triangle, and this is going to be done the same exact way as we did the yellow one, but what I just want to remind you of is when we work across, that last stitch is going to be done in the block that's to the left, not in the center block. So for me, that means I'm going to work in this spot right here in the blue and not in the corner of the pink. Here's what I'm talking about. If I pick up my 6 loops from vertical bars, second, third one, fourth one. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my fingers out of the way so I'm not blocking what I'm doing. Okay, just kidding. We pick up 5 from vertical bars because we have 5 vertical bars. Our 6th stitch then is worked in this very last diagonal one in the very top left of the lower triangle. Pull up a loop there. So that's our one that was on the hook plus the 6 we just picked up. So this last one here is going to be worked in this blue here, not in the corner of the pink. I just want to make sure that you remember that when you're working this part. But it's the exact same way as we did this corner down here, where we worked in the green. And just this time we're working into the blue because the blue is what's to the left of our orange. Pull up a loop. And then I'm going to do that decrease return pass where I yarn over and pull through 2 7 times. I'm going to swap color and work along the side. I'll show you the start of this side block here so I can explain what I was meaning about working under the vertical bars. So when we work on the side, we're going to pick up stitches along the side of our block. So we're going to have one on our hook. We're going to pick up 6 stitches, one in each of our vertical bars. First one. Of course, you have those pesky tail ends. That's what you get for changing color. Terrible, isn't it? First one, pick up from our 2nd vertical bar, pick up a loop from our 3rd vertical bar, our 4th vertical bar, 5th vertical bar, and 6th vertical bar right there at the very end. So now I need to attach it to this center pink block. To do this, I'm going to find the 1st vertical bar right there, and I'm going to come underneath it, my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I'll work my return pass. And when I work the next row, I'll attach the next bar right there. The 3rd row I'll attach into that bar, 4th row, 5th row, all the way until I do the 6th one underneath both of those bars right there. I'm going to finish working this side, work the next pair of triangles to make that turn, and then I'll show you how to finish up the last side section. So here I've done this side and this corner by doing these 2 triangles, and now I'm going to work up the middle. So I've started up by grabbing my 1 loop that was already on the hook, and I pulled up 6 loops, 1 loop from each of the vertical bars in our triangles. So when we go to attach it, we're going to attach it similarly to how we did on this side. Just remember, we're going to skip this first row of pink because it's kind of like our blue and purple are already attached in there. So we're going to skip that first row, go to the 2nd row, and find those 2 pieces that go across, and we're going to go right between them all the way through to the back side, pull up our loop, And now we can yarn over and pull through 2 7 times, or in your case it might be 10, it could be 5, just depends on how many you started with. But however many stitches you started with, I started with 7, that's how many times you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. And from there we're going to keep going. I'm going to do a total of 6 rows working evenly, 7 stitches across for me along this pink side. And then we'll need to work an extra 6 along the side of the green. So when we get to the green, I'll show you towards the end. So I'm gonna work here, I'm gonna work my second one there, third row there, fourth row there, fifth row there, sixth row there. And then I'll need to work 6 in the green as well. So I'll work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our 6th one will attach in the corner, and I'll show you the attaching in the corner part. But I'm gonna work the first 11 of these rows worked in the side. Alright, so I've been working up this side to finish our first spiral around. And so I've done 6 rows beside my pink block, and I've done 5 out of 6 rows beside my green block. For this last one, I'm going to work across like normal, picking up from my vertical bars. It's a little hard to see in this yarn, but I'm picking up from my vertical bars, going across evenly, just like we did in all the other side blocks that we did. And then once I've worked in all of my vertical bars, I'm going to find this space from the chain 2, insert my hook through there, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 7 times. And that is my first spiral going around. Every time you go around, it's like you make the square bigger. So this is like our first square. And then we went around that and made it bigger. If we were to keep going, we'd do another triangle thing here so we could turn our work. We'd work evenly along here, the triangles to turn our work, evenly along the side, triangles to turn our work, evenly along the side, triangles to turn the work, and work all the way to the end up here, and that would create another big ring around the square, if you will. But this is the basics of how to work the 10-stitch Tunisian crochet pattern. When you decide your project is big enough, you're going to want to fasten off along here. So let's say I were going to finish this off. Let me show you how I would do that. Instead of making this 12th row and going into the chain 2 space, all right, let me get my loops back on here. I have my loops that I picked up from working a stitch in each of my vertical bars, and so all that's left to do is pick up a stitch and attach it to my left block. I go into this spot right here. There's kind of like those 2 horizontal bars. Go between them. Pull up a loop. Complete this 12th row just like normal by yarning over and pulling through 2. And then to fasten off, I would fasten off with slip stitches. So I'd go under my first vertical bar here, yarn over and pull through the vertical bar and the loop that was on my hook. Go to my next vertical bar, yarn over and pull through everything on my hook. I'll do this in each of the vertical bars. So that was my second one, this is my third one, slip stitch in my fourth one, slip stitch in my fifth one, and slip stitch in my 7th vertical bar. And then to attach it here, I'd find that chain 2 spot, insert my hook through there, work a slip stitch, and then fasten off. So that's how we work the center and that first big round in this pattern, but I'll talk you through the second round just to make sure that there's not any confusion and so you'd be able to tackle it and all the following rows. So if we compare this to our project here, this green and pink correspond to each other. We did these 2 to turn our work and head that way. Then we did these 2 triangles, did this one on the side, 2 triangles, 1 here on the side, 2 triangles, and then a long stretch along here. And then what we would do next is we'd work our triangle pattern, same as we did on top of our starting stitch, to make that first turn where we're going up and then we turn to the left. Then to work along the side, the trick is for every block, so whether it's an actual block like one of these or whether it's a block made out of 2 triangle stitches, we're going to work one less number of rows and then there are stitches. So in this case, I was doing 5 stitches across. So in each block, I worked 4 rows. It's kind of like what we did here at the end. I worked 7 stitches across. So when I got to the end, I worked 6 rows along this block and 6 rows back and forth this way along this block. So the first time you go up, you'll work beside 2 blocks, then you'll do another corner. This time you're going to work beside 3 blocks until you get all the way to the corner and work the triangles. Work 3 blocks, work the triangles in the corner, and then work evenly alongside 1, 2, 3, if you want to count that as 2 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, and then you'd work evenly across there. If you want to keep going, you would do the 2 triangles here, work along the side, triangles in the corner, work along the side, triangles in the corner, work along the side, triangles in the corner, and work all the way until the very end evenly on that 4th side. So I know that might sound confusing, but once you actually sit down and start working through it, it's really not bad, and it's a great way to work through your stash. If you've got a whole bunch of yarn scraps, it's a really fun one because you can change colors whenever and wherever you feel like. You could also make more like trapezoid shapes instead of squares and blocks like I did. This one, you know, I did squares and rectangles and triangles. It's really fun because you can customize it however you want just by changing color. And of course, all you need is just a normal crochet hook. You're only working a few stitches at a time, so it's not like you need to go out and get new material. So I love this project for that reason as well. But I really hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, leave a thumbs up on the video to let me know you liked it. And if you would, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell notification. That just helps me do better on YouTube because I do earn an income off of the ads that run on here. So when you subscribe to my channel, you're helping support me be able to keep doing what I love, which is teaching the world to DIY. So I hope you have an awesome week, and I will see you in next Tutorial Tuesday. Happy crafting! You know you crochet when you pick up your sandwich to keep eating and you have yarn fuzz in your sandwich. Yeah.